Hello, everybody, and welcome to chapter 21 of the book of Bereishit as we continue to travel through Tanach. Chapter 21 has 34 verses, and it's found in the Koren Sachs Chumash on page 124 and 125. In this chapter, we're going to finally see Hashem fulfill his promise, and we will see that Sarah gives birth to Yitzchak. Abraham circumcises him on the 8th day of his life, and Sarah expresses joy at the miracle of motherhood. As Isaac grows up, Sarah notices Yishmael's negative influence and insists that Hagar and Yishmael must be sent away. And although Abraham expresses reluctance, Hashem reassures him that Yitzchak will carry the covenant and he should listen to his wife's instruction. Hagar and Yishmael wander in the wilderness, where Hashem hears Yishmael's cries and saves them. The chapter concludes with Avraham's treaty with Avimelech, establishing peace and recognition of Avraham's status in the land. With that introduction in mind, let's start together with chapter 21, verse 1. Vadonai pakad es Sarah ka'asher amar. Hashem remembered Sarah as he had said he would. Vayas Adonai leSarah ka'asher diber. And Hashem did for Sarah as he had promised. Verse 2. Vatahar vateled Sarah la'Avraham bein lizkunav. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Avraham in his old age, Lamoed, Asher Diber Oso Elohim, at the very time that Hashem had promised. And indeed, 1 year later from the time when the angels had appeared to Avraham and Sarah, which was at Pesach time, this is when Yitzchak is finally born. Verse 3, Vayikra Avraham es Shem Beno, Avraham named his newborn son, Hanolad lo Asher Yalda lo Sarah, whom Sarah had borne him, Yitzchak. He named him Yitzchak, Isaac. Verse 4, Vayamal Avraham es Yitzchak beno ben shmonas yamin. Avraham circumcised his son Yitzchak at 8 days old, kasher tziva oso Elohim, just as Hashem had commanded him. Verse 5, Avraham ben ma'as shana, behivaled lo es Yitzchak beno. Avraham was 100 years old when his son Yitzchak was born to him. Verse 6, Vatomer Sarah, and Sarah said, Tok asali Elohim. Hashem has brought me laughter. Kol hashomea yitzachak li. All those who hear will laugh with me. Verse 7, Vatomer. Then she said, Mi miler la'Avraham, heini kavanim Sarah. Who would have told Avraham, Sarah will nurse children? Ki yolavti vein liz kunav. Yet I have borne a son in his old age. And our rabbis point out that the reason why this verse says Heinika vanim Sarah, that Sarah would nurse children, is because a miracle occurred that despite her old age, not only was she able to nurse for Yitzchak, but she was actually able to nurse for other babies as well. And this was a miracle that Hashem performed for her so that she would be able to quiet the suspicions that in fact she was not the biological mother. Vayigdal hayeled vayigamal. The child grew and was weaned. Vayas Avraham mishteh gadol. And Avraham held a great feast, beyom higamel es Yitzchak, on the day when Yitzchak was weaned. Verse 9, Vateres Sarah es ben Hagar hamitzris asher yalda Avraham mitzachek. And Sarah saw the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne Avraham mocking. In essence, Sarah saw that Yishmael was not a good influence on Yitzchak, and our rabbis even point out that he was putting him at great risk. Verse 10, Vatomer Avraham, and she said to Avraham, Garesh ha'amah hazos ve'esbana, drive out this slave woman with her son. Ki lo yirash ben ha'amah hazos im b'ni im Yitzchak. For the son of that slave woman must not share the inheritance with my son, with Yitzchak. Verse 11, Vayera hadavar me'od beinei Avraham. This distressed Avraham greatly, al odos beno, because of his son. Verse 12, Vayomer Elohim el Avraham. But Hashem said to Avraham, Al yera be'einecha al hana'ar va'al hamasecha. Do not be distressed about the boy or about your slave. Kol asher tomar elecha Sarah shma b'kolah. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you. Kiv Yitzchak yikarei lecha zara. Because it is through Yitzchak that your descendants will be reckoned. Verse 13, V'gam es ben ha'amar legoy asimenu. But I will make the slave's son too into a nation. Ki zarachahu, because he is your child. Verse 14, Vayashkem Avraham baboker. Avraham woke up early the next morning. Vayikach lechem, and he took bread, v'chemas mayim, and a flask of water. Vayitain el Hagar, he gave them to Hagar. Some al shichma, ves hayeled vaishalcheha. He placed them on her shoulder, and with the child he sent her away. Vatelech vatesa b'midbar be'er shava. And she departed, and she went wandering in the desert of Be'er Sheva. Verse 15, Vayichlu hamayim min hachemes. When the water in the flask was gone, vatashleches hayeled tachas achad hasichim. She cast the child away under one of the bushes. Verse 16, Vatelech vateshev la mineged harchek kmit chave keshes. And she went and sat down at a distance, about a bow shot away. Yamra, for she said, Al ere b'mos hayaled. I cannot watch the child die. Vateshev min neged, vatisa es kola vatevk. Sitting there at a distance, she raised her voice and wept. Vayishma Elohim es kol hanar. And Hashem heard the boy crying, Vayikra malach Elohim el Hagar min hashemayim. And an angel of Hashem called to Hagar from heaven, Vayomer la, and he said to her, Malach Hagar, Hagar, what is wrong? Al tiri, fear not, ki shama Elohim el kol hanar ba'asher hu sham. For Hashem has heard the boy's cry there where he is, ba'asher hu sham. Now this whole portion is actually read on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And one of the reasons why it is read is because this phrase, Ba'asher Hu Sham, that Hashem judges Yishmael's character based on his current actions and based on his current position, is a reminder to all of us that Hashem is always looking at us at our current point in time. And if we are showing an earnest intention to improve, then that stands us in good stead. So this story is a good story to be reading at the time of the renewal of the Jewish year. What this also shows us is how significant Yishmael is in what will later become the Arabic nations and the Muslim nations, for he is the ancestor of those nations, and he is being listened to when he is in pain. In fact, the name Yishmael means Hashem will hear. Verse 18, Kumi Se'i Esanar, go, raise up the boy, V'hachaziki es yadechbo, and take him by the hand, Ki legoy gadol asimenu, for I will make of him a great nation. Verse 19, Vayivkach Elohim eseineha, then Hashem opened her eyes, Vatere be'er mayim, and she saw a well of water, Vatelech vatmalei es achemes mayim, and she went and filled the flask with water, Vatashk es hanar, and gave the boy to drink. Verse 20, Vayhi Elohim es hanar vayigdal. Hashem was with the boy as he grew up, Vayeshev bamidbar, Vayhi rove kashas. He lived in the desert and became an accomplished archer. Verse 21, Vayeshev bamidbar Paran. He lived in the Paran desert, Vatikach lo imo isha me'eretz Mitzrayim, and his mother took a wife for him from Egypt, which is where in fact she came from. Verse 22, Vayhi ba'esahi, at that time, Vayomer Avimelech, Ufichol Satzva'o El Avraham Lemor. Avimelech and Pichol, the commander of his troops, said to Avraham, Elohim imacha b'chol asher ata oseh. Hashem is with you in all you do. Verse 23, Va'ata, so now, Hishava li ve'Elohim heina. Swear to me here before God, in Tishkor li ulanini ulanechti, that you will not deal falsely with me, or with my children, or my grandchildren. Kachesed asher asisi imcha ta'aseh imadi. According to the kindness that I have done with you, do with me. Ve'im ha'aretz asher garta ba, and with the land in which you have lived. Vayomer Avraham anochi ishaver. And Avraham said, I swear. Verse 25, V'hochiach Avraham es Avimelech. Then Avraham rebuked Avimelech, al odos be'er hamayim, asher gazlu avdei Avimelech, on account of the well of water that Avimelech's servants had stolen, had seized. Verse 26, Vayomer Avimelech, and Avimelech said, Lo yadati mi asa es advar hazeh. I do not know who has done this. V'gam ata lo higadata li. And you did not tell me. V'gam anochi lo shamati bilti hayom. I had not heard about it until today. Verse 27, Vayikach Avraham, and Avraham took Tson uvakar, sheep and cattle, Vayiten Avimelech, and he gave them to Avimelech, Vayichvasu shneihem bris, and the two of them entered into a covenant. Verse 28, Vayatsev Avraham es sheva kivshos hatson levadahem. Avraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock. Verse 29, Vayomer Avimelech el Avraham, And Avimelech said to Avraham, Mahena, Sheva Kvasos Ha'eleh. What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs, Asher Hitzavta Levadana, that you have set apart? Vayomer, and Avraham said, Ki es Sheva Kvasos Tikach Miadi. Accept these 7 lambs from me, Ba'avurti Hieli Le'ida, Ki Chafarti es HaBe'er Hazos, as a testimony that I have dug this well. Verse 31, Al Kain Kara Makom Hahu Be'er Shava. That is why that place is called Be'er Sheva. Kisham Nishba'u Shnehem. Because there the 2 men swore an oath. Verse 32, Vayichrusu Vris Be'er Shava. So they made a pact at Be'er Sheva. Vayakam Avimelech, Fichol Sad Zvaor. And Avimelech and Fichol, commander of his troops, got up, Vayashuvu el Eretz Plishtim, and they returned to the land of the Plishtim. Verse 33, Vayita Eshel Be'er Shava. Avraham planted an Eshel in Beersheba, some kind of tree, an Eshel tree. And one of the interpretations of this is that Eshel, spelt with an Aleph, a Shin, and a Lamed, stand for the 3 hallmarks of hospitality that Avraham would always offer. The Aleph for Achila, for eating, for food, the Shin for Shtia, for drinking, and the Lamed for Lina, for lodging. He would always offer people food to eat, something to drink, and a place to stay. So planting this tree in Beersheba seems to symbolize the way in which he laid down the fundamentals of what it means to be a hospitable and generous individual. So Vayita Eshel Beersheba, he planted this tree in Beersheba, Vayikra Sham b'Shem Adonai El Olam, and there he proclaimed the name of Hashem, God of the universe. And on this, our rabbis point out that wherever he would go, whoever he would host, he would encourage them to praise and thank Hashem for the good that they have done for them. This was all a part of the hospitality package that Avraham would offer. Not only would he give them what they needed, but he would also encourage them to understand that everything they have comes from Hashem. And finally, verse 34, Vayagar Avraham be'eretz Plishtim yamim rabim. Avraham stayed in the land of the Plishtim for many years, or for many days. And that's all for chapter 21. In chapter 22, we will finish the parsha of Vayera by reading about the 10th trial, the 10th Nisayon that Avraham had to face, which was the Akedah, the binding of his son Yitzchak to the altar. I look forward to learning that with you, but in the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.